MVP discourse, like, I feel like so much of basketball talk as of late has really just gotten so oversaturated with negativity and toxicity on social media as of late, and it just feels so unnecessary and so unhelpful to the game that I love and the game that I think a lot of us as a community love. And I just don't understand why this negativity. I know it's not necessary. I'll say that first and foremost, but I don't know why it is. I think it's just people are so comfortable with toxicity on the internet, and they're so comfortable participating in that toxicity on the internet. And it's a real shame because it really does, I think, hurt the future of the game as a whole. And I don't know. Look, the Thunder won today. Shout out to OKC. SGA has a decent, I mean, one of the worst 40-point games in all honesty that I've seen in a while. 15 of 32, 2 of 11 for 3. Isn't exactly high level efficiency, but he did have 5 assists, only 1 turnover. He had 8 rebounds. He scored 40 points. Still a great game. Not the most efficient 40-point game we've ever seen, but still another great game by SGA, and he has been awesome all year. Jokic has a fine, not insane game. Again, also pretty inefficient. 23 shots. 2 of 10 from 3, goes for 13 rebounds, 9 assists, 2 turnovers, and 24 points. Honestly, I'm not going to sit here and act like either of those two players, in my personal opinion, had exceptional games today, despite the impressive stat lines individually from the two of them. I just personally don't think this changed that much for the MVP, in my opinion. The Thunder got a massive game from Chet, plus 32, 14 points, 8 rebounds, 4 blocks. Jalen Williams comes in, 26 points, 10 and 11 from the free throw line, 9 rebounds, 8 assists, plus 17. Had himself an awesome game. Like, as a whole, I feel like they got a lot of valuable contributions from their role players on a level that the Thunder just didn't. I mean, Russ was a minus 17, 1 and 9 from the field. He was not good today. Michael Porter Jr. was a minus 33 despite having 24 and 15. He was just not all that great defensively. Like, as a whole, Jamal Murray 6 of 17 is your second option. That's not going to cut it. It wasn't a great game for the Nuggets, and the Thunder are the better team. That's never been in question. I think that's been agreed upon all year. My problem is not with people arguing that Shea is the MVP, or people like myself arguing that Jokic is the MVP. In my opinion, I would still give the award to Jokic after today. Thunder are the better team. In my opinion, Jokic is the more impactful overall player still. But the problem that I have is that it doesn't come down to people's opinions when it's discourse. It is on social media far too often a toxic wasteland of people who disagree with each other on something like this, where it is entirely valid to have differing opinions. And instead of accepting that it's okay to have different opinions and discuss different opinions and be okay with disagreeing, people are just, it's honestly a microcosm of the world in general these days. I feel like it's very easy for people to have a really hard time discussing things with people who disagree with them. Disagreement is crucial to growth as a society, as a people, basketball wise and life wise in general. It is important to disagree. And I just feel like the way in which we disagree is crucial, and it's just something that doesn't seem to make progress. And I mean, I'm sure y'all have seen Carson Breber. I'm sure y'all know this dude. Legitimately, probably one of the best basketball history minds I've ever seen. God, every time I see his content, really mainly on TikTok is where I see it, I'm always impressed by the way in which he discusses basketball. And he puts out a tweet today that I really liked. And he said, basically, probably the best 2-man MVP race ever. And the discourse has been overwhelmingly bitter and nasty and disingenuous all year. And it's only going to get worse. Cool, man. Glad this is how we do it. I couldn't put it better myself. I really couldn't. It's just extremely unfortunate that people are so passionate about their own beliefs in who should win the MVP that it enables them to attack each other at a far deeper level. Disagreeing about who deserves to win the award in basketball is fine. Disagreeing in the way that so many people seem to isn't. And it's just unhealthy. And it's just, I think it hurts the credibility almost in a lot of ways of basketball, the way that social media talks about basketball, but also the way that sports media in general does, the way that ESPN and these different major outlets cover the game of basketball and cover these discussions is just so disingenuous, I think is a great word that Carson used to describe the disaster that is sports media. And look, whether you agree that Jokic is the MVP, which is my personal opinion, or you think that Shea is, who is having, sure, the better two-way season in terms of defense. Jokic is having, in my opinion, the greatest offensive season we've ever seen in the history of the sport, not factoring in the fact that Wilt basically played in the 60s against not the same level of competition, obviously. I mean, I think you can have the opinion that either of them are deserving of the MVP. I have no issue whatsoever with people having those differing opinions. But when you have, like Carson said, what is maybe the greatest two-man race for the award damn near ever, and the conversation is more so people who, Thunder fans who now hate Nuggets fans, and Nuggets fans who hate Thunder fans, and the amount of toxicity there is, even from others' fan bases. As a Mavs fan, I am aware there's a lot of toxicity from the Mavs fan base towards SGA. I know Sixers fans, I see them all the time, just looking for every single excuse on social media to bash Nikola Jokic because of their deep-seated frustration with Jokic because of the Jokic versus Embiid debates that dominated basketball talk in a lot of ways on social media for a long time. And there are plenty of other examples as well, but you see these types of things on social media on a day-to-day basis when you are tapped in with basketball discussion. And it's just a shame because, dude, Jokic, like I said, is literally having maybe the best offensive season of all time. We have never seen a center do anything close to 29, 13, and 10.5 while also shooting 44% from three. There's never been a guard who's been close to that, let alone a center. It is extraordinary. And then Shea is having one of the best all-around seasons we've ever seen. 33 a game, 5 and 6, very good efficiency in his own right, absolutely elite from the mid-range, has elevated his game from the three-point line, shooting the most threes he's ever shot up and about as efficiently as he ever has. And he's dominant in the mid-range, and he's a high-level defensive player. He's really, really good. And his team is arguably the best team in basketball and potentially the favorites to win the championship. Like, again, they're both having amazing years. And the discourse should more be on how incredible they are and how incredible all these other superstars are in the league. And I mean, I can even bring Jason Tatum into this. I'm not personally the biggest Jason Tatum fan. I never really have been. But I can fully admit he is having probably the best all-around season of his career. And yet half the Jason Tatum discourse on Twitter from people who aren't Celtics fans is people just insulting Tatum on a day-to-day basis, talking about how much of a fraud he is, how much he sucks, how terrible he is, how much of a... It's gross. And it's exhausting, and it's not what basketball discourse is supposed to be. And it takes away the credibility of real, legitimate basketball discussion because of the assumption that there's just this much negativity in every aspect. And it's such a shame, because I think basketball right now is in about as much as interesting and as fun of a spot as it has been in a long time. And yet half the discourse constantly on social media is about how the NBA is dying and how many problems it has and how many issues there are in the game. And people want to complain about Shea's foul baiting. Sure, he foul baits. He's also set to finish right around average for free throw attempts per game for an MVP. Like, it's not like he's doing anything egregiously terrible. I just think people who love to complain and love to nitpick and love to argue are hurting basketball discourse as a whole, and specifically MVP discourse. And it's incredibly frustrating for me to watch as a fan, because I feel like we should be able to appreciate the greatness of both of these players. I know that's a overused phrase, but it's also a true phrase. And that's just somewhere we aren't right now. And that's a shame. But again, that is my opinion. You don't have to agree with me, but I hope we can disagree civilly, which is something that people on social media seem to not be able to do. So I hope y'all did enjoy the video. If you did, make sure you hit that like button, leave a comment, and subscribe. I'll be back with more NBA content very, very soon. I appreciate y'all. Peace.